Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Grid Talk Show, the 37th episode. For those of you who are new to my connections and Grid Coaches, just a brief background. We are a community of purpose-driven coaches who want to create an impact in the world. If you are a coach like that, please DM me or visit www.bitcoaches.com and see what we're all about, and tell us if you want to join us and be a part of the team. We are operating across 5 continents in different countries. And we also have a summit coming up towards the end of April. If you haven't signed up, please remember to sign up. It's on entrepreneurship, something very connected to today's topic, the spirit of entrepreneurship. So we have with us Sue Jackson today, who is a coach who loves to work with entrepreneurs. And the topic that she's chosen, the spirit of entrepreneurship, is going to take into account something which we don't normally talk about. The purpose, which is actually the motivator a lot of times. But what we get focused and fixated on are the profits, the numbers, the figures, and the essence is lost and the spirit is lost. Welcome, Sue. Please introduce yourself and what you're doing with Awakened Enterprise, your practice, your coaching practice. Once we know a bit more about you, then let's delve deep into entrepreneurship.
Oh, thank you, Khadija, and thank you so much for inviting me to speak here on your 37th episode. So my background is I started out wanting to be an international interpreter, somehow ended up running a business with my husband in my early days and decided to learn how to become an accountant. And then since then, I've spent a lot of time working with large and small businesses in finance, definitely working with numbers. But actually, one of the things I realized was that what I really loved was working with people, understanding their businesses and their business stories. And I've always been fascinated by ideas. So my natural progression was to do less numbers, less measuring, and more actually working with people and helping people to not only grow their businesses, but actually start by exploring their ideas and seeing that, every idea has potential. So that's really been my journey. And Awakened Enterprise is really about realizing that in my experience, most people start a business, and that could be a coaching business, with an idea and a dream. And somewhere along the line, we get busy, and then it becomes more like a job. So there are so many people that have successful businesses, but get to a level where they get stuck. And then it's like, well, how do I get, from here to where I want to go? And for me, it's about, so Awakened Enterprise is also about natural business, natural leadership. But for me, it's always back to the spirit. And as you said, Khadija, the essence of why we are entrepreneurs, and all coaches are entrepreneurs. And, in coaching, there's a question that we're taught, or certainly I was taught, not to ask, don't ask the why question. But really, this is, why am I an entrepreneur? Why are you an entrepreneur? Why are we really here? And why did entrepreneurs actually start in the beginning? And I think that was because somebody realized, I have 2 fishes, you have none, but you have something that you could give me. And we started to exchange. That was the beginning of business as we know it, or enterprise, as I prefer to call it. And actually how we started to build tribes, communities, societies. So for me, it's a very, very important question to go back to the spirit of entrepreneurship and why we're even here.
Yeah, so like lately, we've all been listening to Simon Sinek, and this the why of business, and this the golden circle. And on the other hand, as you said, in coaching, we are taught that not to ask the why questions. doesn't the why, as Simon says, define the core of the business? Like, why are we doing that? And isn't that finding the why, the core values and the drivers, as opposed to, why would you not ask the why to an entrepreneur to determine the reason why he's actually started the journey?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think on the coaching side, there's the school of thought that you don't ask why, because it takes the person back to something that might trigger them, rather than get them out of their head to think about what they could do differently. But absolutely.
Yes, so that's a different why.
Yes. But with Simon Sinek, and as you said, we're all purpose-led entrepreneurs and coaches. I think the difficulty comes when we start to think, overthink, or think, okay, so what's my why? And is it big enough? Somebody else has got a really big why. And we spend so much time thinking about, is my why big enough? Is it important enough? Have I got the wording right? All these things. And I've been on many courses over the years. And what I've realized is that I have more than one purpose. So I have my own purpose, which is to raise my children to be the best that they can be, the best versions of themselves. And my purpose is to leave the world a better place. But my purpose as a business is to enable other people to do that for themselves. So I think we can be gentle on ourselves. We can have more than one purpose, and it can change over time. But the thing with purpose is, once you decide, it's okay to have a purpose that's right for me, aligned for me. And actually we build the purpose muscle so we can get to the bigger version that we want to get to. But starting with what's aligned to us, that we can be really simple, and we can share without worrying, what does somebody think? Does somebody think it's big enough? Is it bold enough? So it's really about taking the pressure off and being our authentic selves, and we will find our purpose, because I believe that life is a journey, and the steps we take now will lead us to where we are destined to be.
Yes, so you brought up a great point here, Sue, that we do sort of start caving under the pressure of finding the why. Is it right, or is it big enough, or is it worded correctly? So how can we settle for something and realize, actually identify the reason that we're doing what we're doing? Because even when I see a lot of people who are starting up, it's either the numbers that attracts them or the potential in the business. Very few people, because that's why I think we have a limited number of social entrepreneurs, as opposed to people, the for-profit. Actually, social enterprise can be for profit as well, so there's a misconception there, but a lot of people, that is why I think Simon Sinek also made the distinction, that how certain businesses are so have identified their values and some purpose which they go by, and a very precise vision statement. So how do people come up with that way? Because it's as they say, it's very difficult to come up with something so simplified, like a very precise vision statement. So how do we actually get there, or people or businesses and entrepreneurs, how can they get there and realize that this is the difference, identify that this is the difference I want to make in the world around me?
Yeah, so it's interesting. You would think, if you're starting with as one person starting a business or a coaching practice, you get to decide, so it should be easy. And you would think a company, a big organization, has lots of people to co-create that vision and those values, but each has its own challenges. So I think that life gives us clues. And so, for example, and it's finding a way to articulate. So, I've worked with organizations and companies, or been in organizations and companies over the years. Well, coming to a vision statement has been a very, very long process. But the more you can simplify it for yourself or for your group or your community or your organization, the more people can understand, this is what we're doing. So for me, a vision is literally, what do I want to see in the world? How do I want the world to look and feel like? And what can I do to move towards that? And in terms of values, so the values are almost like the guiding points to make so that we know we're on track. So, my values are freedom, peace, love, education, and others. So I know what I want the world to look like, even though for me it's quite difficult to articulate that in words, but I have a vision and somebody can help me to put that in words. And also I have life experiences that, so for example, who knew? I never intended to get involved in the world of finance and numbers, but somehow I did. And for a while I wanted to move away from that. But actually I realized that I have skills and knowledge that I can help people on that side, but also focus on the more human side of business, of helping others and solving social problems, for example. Because so many people have amazing ideas that they want to get out there, but they maybe think something's missing and they can't move forward. So for me, it's really down to find a way to articulate what your vision would be, what your mission, which is what you want to do. Your vision for me is how you want to see the world. Your mission is what you're actually going to do, that you can go back and say, did I do that? Did I not? And your values are your guiding principles that will take you on that journey. But I think it's, if you can't, I think the thing I would say is, if it doesn't come, don't try to figure it out for yourself. There are plenty of people, and perhaps even in this community, that would love to listen to you and perhaps help you articulate what it is for you.
Yes, we tend to take all the onus on ourselves and then get overwhelmed. When it comes to coaching entrepreneurs, so what are the top 3 challenges that you see them facing, especially people who are starting over?
So I think one challenge can be that they think they have to go from, if it was a car, 0 to whatever the speed, 100 in 60 seconds or 10 seconds or whatever the metric is. And there can be an impatience to start, get traction, achieve results very, very quickly, when actually, if you look, as they say, it can take 10 years to become an overnight success. So it's having a realistic plan that sees that your plan for your business is not necessarily linear. There might be steps or stages that you need to focus on. And then when you get to that point, say, okay, what needs to change now? What do I need to learn now or unlearn now? Who do I need to bring in to help me? And that will happen in the whole life cycle of the business. So I would say the first thing is to see business and your business as a journey, but also it has a life cycle, and each stage will have its own life cycle, to see that in a more organic way. I think the second thing is to find role models that you really align with. So you talked about vision and values. So find role models who really inspire you and are the kind of people who are saying, yes, I'm successful. Yes, I found a way to innovate and do it my way. And I give you permission to innovate and do it your way. So less of the, do it my way kind of role model. That's what has worked for me. And I think the third thing is really that we can't do it all ourselves. And it's finding, so if you're starting a business that as an entrepreneur, as opposed to maybe you just want to be self-employed and just have a little bit of income, if you're really planning to grow a business or an enterprise, you can't do it alone. So start thinking about who and what type of people can help you. And for some people, I tend to see people and think, oh, I'd love that person to work with me, but I don't know what they would do. But it evolves that way, and other people know exactly what they need and then find the right person. So it's always about finding what's right for you. But as you mentioned, overwhelm and burnout, we can't do it alone, and a business, I believe, is more than one person. And if we start with that, then we don't get into where we try to do all the numbers ourselves, or the sales ourselves, or the admin ourselves, because it's not sustainable. And I think what the world needs is more entrepreneurs, more purpose-led entrepreneurs who give everyone the permission to live and work more sustainably.
Yes, so thank you for bringing this up. One, you cleared that, the why question in coaching, it's different. But the who that you brought up, like there are two who's, and they are extremely important to businesses. Like the who, as in the target audience, who are you catering for? But another who, which is, I think, never brought up, is who you'd like to work with or who you'd like to team up with. And that's something which I think always goes under the table, but that's a foundational thing to actually create a business. That's why I think people struggle looking for co-founders, because they're never really clear that who do we ideally want to work with. Should they be aligned with our values? What skills would we like them to have? So I think probably a manifestation for something like that, the ideal team or the ideal co-founders. What do you think? Do you believe in manifestation when it comes to entrepreneurship, and even manifesting a team for that matter?
I do. I do. I think that we can't, I believe we can't control our lives, but we can certainly decide the direction, and we can take responsibility for the way we show up in life and the choices we make and the people that we want to work with. So, starting the day by even asking a question, who or what amazing people am I going to meet today? Or who would I love to work with, this month or next year? But asking those questions. And, I do believe that when we start to focus on the positive and the opportunity and be excited about what we don't yet know, instead of trying to control every detail and determine what's going to happen. And, so planning is important. I would always say that, but it's kind of plan, but then expect the best and be open for opportunity. And I think, to go back to the two who's, we're living in a world where there's a lot of talk about co-creating with customers. And I think the best businesses they really listen to their customers. They provide them opportunities to share feedback, to share ideas. And also, to go back to social enterprise, there's the concept of stakeholders. And if we look at our customers, our partners, the communities who ultimately benefit from the work that we do, and look at them as stakeholders, we actually open up a whole 360-degree possibility or potential of who we could be working with. So literally open to people from any other industry, because sometimes the best ideas can come from a different place. But yes, so manifestation it's really about showing up as our best selves, being open, being positive, and I think also being kind and compassionate and listening to others, I think, are really, really important. And then the right people will show up. And I've been very lucky in my life in that way, I have to say.
So I'm assuming it must be due to the positive attitude, that what amazing people am I going to work with? Because this is something personally, so I have come across while mentoring entrepreneurs, is that they often think that, we cannot build teams. It's like a limiting belief, perhaps, that they think that, we can't put together a good team. Or I think, or whoever comes across us, like whoever we meet, tends to double cross us, or with a negative mindset, that we're not meeting the right people, we're meeting the wrong people. So what you're saying is that people should be more open with a more positive outlook. It's only with positivity that you can attract positive people within your life as co-founders and co-creators as well.
Exactly, Khadija. And I think, so obviously it's about being open and positive. Obviously, we need to have strong boundaries as well.
Yes.
But sorry, I lost my train of thought there. What I was going to say is that no, sorry, I've lost
Yes,
my
yes,
train of
that
thought
happens
there.
to
So I was
me
just
all the
agreeing with
time.
you completely.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
it happens with me all the time.
Yeah, sorry, I know what I was going to say. So yes, on the subject of partnerships or joint ventures, and I think this is when one of the essences or the spirit of an entrepreneurship comes in. So it's this mindset of curiosity, adventure, play, and learning experiences instead of failure. So, for example, from my experience, I think now if I want to co-create with another entrepreneur or another coach, instead of doing we must start a business together, or let's have a big venture, let's just experiment and play with something small to see how we could work together and then build from that. So it's an opportunity to learn, but also if it doesn't work out, to say, oh, that's fine. We've had a good time exploring this. We've both learned something. We've learned what to do more of, perhaps what to do less of, but there's no failure. It just helps us on the next step. And if you think of a life of an entrepreneur, and that could be many, many, many years. And the amazing opportunity is to work with many, many people, not necessarily with one or a few. But of course, there have been big companies and entrepreneurs who have started out with one partner and they've stayed together. But it's not one size fits all. We have to find, I think we have to find our way. But just experimenting in a very gentle way actually helps us to learn more about ourselves, as in, who do I need to partner with, or who would make the best partner for me, and the same for the other people that we're working with.
Yes. So I feel that it takes time to find the right people. And if people are short on time, or entrepreneurs, and they just want, as you said, this pressure of becoming an overnight success, or exponentially growing too soon. Yes, as you said, that we should be open to, and as the life of an entrepreneur goes, that we will be having more people come in and go out all the time. So do you think it's flexibility at the core of it? Because we are humans and we tend to get attached to whoever we're working with, and we develop a kind of a comfort zone too over there. So having somebody else come in instead, and being open to it, that they might be a right fit and they might not be. So it requires this room of flexibility. What would you say is a key quality an entrepreneur should have to have this kind of a mindset?
I would say, so the flexibility, definitely, and the clarity and clear communication skills. So, for example, if you are bringing in somebody into your team to help you, is making it really clear what the work is, what the expectations are, and even having let's say we'll work together for 3 months and let's see what happens. And I think as long as we are clear and people agree we have common expectations, that's when you create a culture. Even if it's with the first person that works for you, or the first person that works with you, you start creating your own culture of what it's like to do business with you. And from my financial background, I would say business is serious, so we're in business, we have an entrepreneurial spirit, but we're in business to make a living, to provide for our families, perhaps our wider community in some way, and to serve our customers. So, we have to be the best we can be and have the best team we can have and the best partners we can have and actually the best customers we can have. So I think it's being very clear what's business, what's personal, and having strong but flexible boundaries around that, because we want to enjoy working with other people. For me, we want to enjoy our business as much as we want to enjoy our personal life. Business is different and there are boundaries. So I think it's create our own culture from the beginning, and if that will evolve, we'll find out what works. And it's treat people with kindness and compassion and communicate clearly so that their expectations are understood and met. And then there's no disappointment, there's no fallout, there's no everyone's like, okay, it's been great, let's go on to the next stage.
Yes,
in theory.
Absolutely. So do you propose that there should be maybe some kind of a checklist we can have, or some vetting processes through which we can be more clearer that yes, this person looks a lot like what I would who I would ideally like to work with?
Yes, I work with a system called Wealth Dynamics. So
sorry, can you say that?
Yes, so Wealth Dynamics. And there are 8 profiles, and I'm actually a mechanic. So I'm a kind of an introvert who likes systems but also has lots of ideas and likes to see things working. So in my past I worked in finance, but also IT. And one of my things was I used to love seeing people working with the systems and change. So for me, it was creating harmony. So that's my profile. There are 7 others. But when but the basic principle behind that is knowing ourselves. When we truly know ourselves and honestly accept, our strengths, our talents, but also our weaknesses, it makes it much easier for us to know who we want to work with in different situations. So if we need somebody who will help us to generate ideas, then we find somebody who's more of a big ideas innovation person. If we need someone to help us with sales, then maybe it's someone who's more extrovert and loves telling people about the work that you're doing. Or if you need someone to look after your customers because your customer base is growing and you have lots of clients and you can't necessarily look after them as frequently and as often as you'd like, then you could bring in somebody who's more of a people person, but more kind of quiet behind the scenes, who looks after people. So for me, there are lots of different ways of doing it, or different systems. But for me, it starts with really knowing myself, knowing my strengths and where I should be focusing my time and energy, knowing where I'm much better bringing people in to help me. So for me, it would be social media. It would be talking to lots of people on sales calls, for example. Whereas I love talking to people in small groups. So it's really finding what's my path of least resistance, where can I be most effective, and where can I actually provide an opportunity for other people to do what I don't love, but they do love.
That's beautiful. So at the core of everything is self-awareness. Once you know yourself, you know what kind of an impact you want to create in the world through entrepreneurship, and you know the kind of people you want to work with, who will complement your own strengths as well. So any parting tips or key takeaways that you'd like to share for entrepreneurs as a message that they can keep the spirit of entrepreneurship alive?
Yes. So I think there's something like 500 to 600 million entrepreneurs in the world, and that number is just going to grow because of the way the world is changing with technology. So I think if you're called to be an entrepreneur, know that there are so many different ways to do it, and the best way is your way. And the challenge really is just to find what's right for you and for you to share your gifts with the world. And I think also there's as entrepreneurs, we naturally find solutions to the problems in the world. Even if we don't think of ourselves as problem solvers, we bring a different perspective. So by anyone who's called to being an entrepreneur and a purpose-led entrepreneur, I think there will be more diversity, more voices in the world, a higher level of consciousness to actually help us with the sea change that we're facing in the coming decades. So yeah, there's nothing to stop you. It's just go out there and find your way, and work with your communities and the people. Don't do it alone. It would be that.
Absolutely, that is so true. Because when starting up, a lot of people start as solopreneurs and then they continue as solopreneurs because of those beliefs around building a team. But as you said, know thyself, and you can then bring get people together to work with you, complement you as well. So don't do it alone, because you need to delegate when you are creating a business, and you need to co-create as well to bring different perspectives within the organization. And that's how you build teams, and that's how you build businesses. So thank you so much for your time, Sue. I really appreciate all the insights that you have shared with us today. For those of you who are watching, I know a lot of you watch at your own time. Please remember to share your questions in the comments, and we'll get back to you, and leave a like, and you can even share the post if you wish, if you found value. And if you want to connect with Sue as an entrepreneurship coach, you can find her on LinkedIn. And where else can we find you, Sue?
Mainly on LinkedIn. And as I said, I'm not a great social media person, but I will also be attending your summit, I think on the Saturday in 2 weeks' time. So I look forward to connecting with people there as well.
Yes, so the summit is focused on entrepreneurship, and we have speed networking sessions. So hope to see you all, and see you as well. Have a lovely weekend, Sue, and those of you who are watching.
Thank you, Khadija. Thank you so much. I've really enjoyed this conversation. Thank you.
Stay there. Bye-bye.
Bye.